Hello everyone, welcome along to this week's football show here at Betfred, and we've got a cracking weekend ahead because the oldest club competition in the world gets back underway, the FA Cup. Delighted to say we've got an FA Cup winner in the studio with us here with Paul Parker. We'll get to him shortly and his predictions for this week. It's a big week, it's the third round stage.
The game is on, the match with 22 players, all of the highest standard.
You just cannot write scripts like this.
Welcome back. Yeah, delighted to have ex-Fulham, QPR, Manchester United and England right back Paul Parker, and most importantly for this week, Paul, former FA Cup winner in the studio. I must imagine when this week in the calendar comes around, it holds a special place in your heart.
Just always interested, regardless if I'm fortunate enough to have won it, or I should say played in the final and won it. But even without that, I'd still always look forward to because grew up at this FA Cup and May and a cup final. During my time, it was the biggest time for any kid. As soon as that finals played, you would go into the garden and you'd want to be one of those players from that winning team, or the team that didn't win it. You'd try and get them to win it in the back garden, or go over the park with your friends. It's one of those moments. You wouldn't want to go and do it in January though, because it was a little bit chilly then. But it was all about the final, and it's just a shame really that people seem to be wanting to take that away from everybody at this moment. People should be enjoying it. It's that time away from the pressures of the league, Sean.
Yeah, I don't get that feeling that kids nowadays dream about playing in an FA Cup final anymore. It's a Champions League final, isn't it? But I mean, even when I was younger, the FA Cup used to have coverage all throughout the day, from the morning all the way through to kick-off, following the bus along the motorway to the stadium. It used to be the biggest thing of the season, didn't it?
It was the biggest thing of the season, but that's changed a bit now. I've changed a lot for the simple reason is football now is on 24/7. So now everyone knows about everybody. At that time, no one knew anybody really, even the best teams. And the teams that got to the finals, the Liverpool, the Manchester United, the Arsenals, teams that, when you talk about what those sides are now, we still didn't really know those players. As much as they were always trying to contest to win the Football League, we didn't really know them as individuals. So that was the time when we found out little personal things about them, and you suddenly found out more about their personalities. Personalities now, virtually a lot of them is like solid wood. So it's a bit different now.
That's why we've got him in the studio today. And before we get to the third round stage this week, let's just take you back to that day, 1994 against Chelsea. What are your memories of winning the cup?
All the Chelsea players wearing purple suits, kind of a purpley suit, and to be honest, then they had a picture taken, a team picture taken at their end of the fans, and they looked like a Welsh choir. To be perfectly honest,
you knew you had them beat then.
No, I don't think I put it that. It wasn't like the white suits of Liverpool in '96. But then it started to rain, little pitter-patter of rain, and all of a sudden you could just see, all of a sudden it looked like it had pebble dashing on their jackets. It looked like Parma violets. That's the better look, I'd say. That's how Chelsea looked. But it was one of those moments that we went in at half-time and the boss savaged us. We're awful. We could have been 1-0 down. Gavin Peacock had a shot, great save from Big Pete. But we went out second half, got a penalty quite early on. I think it was, I'm trying to think, was it an Eddie Newton on Dennis Irwin? And then we went on from there really and won 4-0. A little bit flattering in certain ways, but we was a better team.
One of those famous early hairdryers from Fergie then.
Yeah, half-time, there was many of them. Half-time one, even when you were winning, you still kind of got it in your ear if you weren't performing right.
That's the final, of course, but this weekend for many clubs is the biggest weekend of the season, isn't it? Because they come up against the big boys at the third round stage, potential giant killing, and even if not, they play in these big games with the big money, and it can mean a lot to their future. Yeah, without a doubt. Clubs generally keeps clubs going for maybe a season or two. A little bit that's been taken away in this round, as you know, because they've done away with replays, which is a shame on a lot of these clubs when the chance of a second game, be it one way or the other, if they're playing against that game away from home against one of the bigger teams, they get 50% of the gate. Some of them not going to get that opportunity now unless they've been drawing away in the first game. So they lose out on that a little bit, which is a shame really, when in theory this FA Cup
for me at this moment in time, it is about the smaller clubs, not the bigger clubs. It's about the smaller clubs, and it's been taken away from them.
And of course, this stage last year, we didn't have the fans, did we? So that was a big disadvantage to those smaller clubs coming against the big side, especially at home. Now, thankfully, the fans are back in the stadium, so maybe we'll see 1 or 2 shocks this weekend. What do you think?
There could be, I mean, this put it this way, there's more chance of being scares, of clubs being scared than what there is of shocks. So you don't get too many, and they're getting less and less now, aren't they, really, because the size of squads, or I don't know if we want to use that word squads, because at the moment you've got squads, but you don't utilise them, you just get the game called off. So, but for these lesser teams, it's just about the opportunity to go out there and do themselves justice. That's what they must be. That's what they want more than anything, to do themselves justice.
Okay, we're going to have a look at some potential shocks that you've picked out for us this weekend. So, first of all, Hull taking on Everton. Why did that one stand out for you?
Just because of the way Everton are at this moment in time. They're being so inconsistent, very, very inconsistent. When they do get a result back, you can almost put your hat on it, but the next game isn't going to work out for them. There's still unrest about the manager. The fans ain't happy. And I look at this game, and Hull at home, Hull are going to go all out. You know, they're not going to be worried about trying to rest people. They're going to go all out to try and get something. That's what I believe. I think you have to. The fans want to see it. Everton, can they afford to lose the game? But can they afford, say, Calvert-Lewin? Can they afford to play him in this game? He's just come back. He needs minutes on the pitch, but would they rather have the minutes in the Premier League rather than have the minutes in the cup tie and then get injured? So is he going to start? So I think then there's other players. Can they risk losing players who haven't been that good this season, but can they afford to lose them in a game like this?
It's tricky, isn't it? Because for Benitez, he'll be thinking just 1 win in 12 in the Premier League. We're 15th. We've got to make sure that we don't get dragged down into a relegation battle. But personally, the pressure is on him. Can he afford to lose to Hull in the FA Cup?
Can he afford to lose any game? And the answer to that question is no. The fans are not going to allow him to do that. So yes, he cannot afford to lose this game, because it'd be a massive embarrassment, and you just don't know what could happen after it. For me, where do Everton go next if they were to sack Benitez? I don't think they can go anywhere else, to be perfectly honest. I think Benitez has proved himself as a good manager, and I think he's just been left a lot of dead wood at Everton, and he needs the opportunity himself to go out there and get what he wants, because I think he's proven already, even what he's done over the previous window, what he's brought in have done well for the club. Is what he's been left with that haven't been doing well.
Okay, well, that's live on Saturday, BBC 5:30. We make Everton a shade of odds on, but you think that could be a shock?
There's an opportunity for Hull to go and get something from that game.
Okay, let's move on to one of the late games on Sunday. Nottingham Forest taking on Arsenal. Now, we saw at this stage 4 years ago, Forest beat Arsenal here by 4-2. But Arsenal are odds on this time around. 4th in the Premier League. You can say perhaps unlucky against Manchester City last time out. They had been on a good run, so why is this one that stands out for you?
Excuse me. I was actually at the game. It was one of the first games. It was just in that year when I was on my way back from Singapore, so I come across for a few weeks, and I was just starting to get myself back into the media again and started working, and I got sent out to cover this game, to co-comment this game, and I was there, and it was freezing because where you sit is in the old stand at Nottingham Forest, and it's wood and it's so cold. And
you were regretting it instantly.
Oh, without a doubt. After spending 8 years in Singapore, and when you're coming back in January, and it was freezing. But I remember this game. Every time they attacked Forest were absolutely terrific. I think Berrington. It's Berrington, isn't it? Yeah. Now it's Berrington Diaz, isn't it?
Yeah, Berrington Diaz.
Yeah. Now, he was playing for Forest, and he absolutely ran them ragged. And the centre half was the German, who's now their academy director. The centre half. I'm
trying to think myself.
Mertesacker.
Oh, Mertesacker.
Okay. Yes.
For us,
honestly, he absolutely battered him. He ran him because he could run. You know, he's a strong boy, strong runner, good athlete, and he ran Arsenal ragged, and Arsenal got well beaten on that occasion. Forest now are in better hands now. They've got a very good coach. I think they're more disciplined. There's more structure, and Arsenal, he's not going to go all in with this game either. You know, because obviously they've got the game against Liverpool coming up as well. So he's going to be careful, Arteta, the club are in a better place at the moment, Arsenal, but it's not going to be his strongest 11 out there. It's going to be an 11 who a few might be disgruntled, a few might be ring rusty. Nottingham Forest are going to go for it because he's going to want to get some kind of form tempo going to go into his next championship game. This could be a game where Arsenal are going to have to work really hard to get anything from it. It's a one-off game, so if it was to go and run its course, it goes to penalties.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's certainly been a lot better, haven't they, under Steve Cooper? I think they went 9 unbeaten before the last couple of defeats. So they are available at around 9-2, so big price if you fancy Forest.
Which I think it's worth a little go at that price.
Okay, and the final one is a very interesting one. Saturday, 3 o'clock. It's Newcastle taking on Cambridge. This one stuck out for you. Now, Newcastle, of course, famously, their last big trophy was the FA Cup back in 1955. I'm sure that looks set to change sooner rather than later, Paul, but perhaps they don't need a cup run again, focus on staying in the Premier League. Is that your thinking? Or?
I just think they need to win games. I think the fans are at home. The fans expect them to beat Cambridge. They need to win. Get something, get a little bit of momentum, a good feel factor to go and, have a cup of tea. The players go into the players' lounge and have a cup of tea or coffee after the game. And now they've got a smile on their face because they've won a game of football, regardless of what it is.
But you're concerned about this?
This one, because again, it's a side with nothing to lose. They're away from home. They mostly have done their allocation of tickets to Cambridge fans to go to Newcastle. Everyone's talking about Newcastle at the moment, so it's made it a better trip. Plus, it's a good weekend as well, a good weekend out in Newcastle. So it might work out for them a little jolly after Christmas. So this could be a game where something just might materialise. Can Newcastle go out there and play all their main players at this moment in time? I don't think they can, because I think they'd be more concerned about the Premier League. They shouldn't be. They should want to win games, but I think they'd be worried about the Premier League. So there could be a chance here for Cambridge to give them a scare.
Well, they are a massive price. You've had them in the 90 minutes at around 10-1. Newcastle very short, around 1-4 to win the game. Let's talk about Newcastle and away from the FA Cup for a little bit. They've just signed Kieran Trippier, their first signing for around £12 million. Surely more on the way this month in the January transfer window, Paul. Can they, or will they perhaps buy their way out of trouble? Because they are in trouble, aren't they?
Oh, they're in big trouble. But signing him as a right back is just, if that was only going to be their little bit of work during the window, then no, that's not the one who's going to save them. Definitely not. It's going to, maybe if they were to stay up, and then you're going to look to build on the back of that and get a right back who's played a lot of games in the Premier League, has had a good defensive education with Simeone at Atletico, then you say to yourself, yes, a good signing, but you need more than that. A right back doesn't win you a Premier League and doesn't guarantee you're going to stay up in the Premier League.
How many first-team players do you think they need until the end of the season?
If they were to go up, they've got to look, and if you're talking about calibre, you're talking nothing less than what Kieran is. You're talking maybe 5, maybe to
half
stay
the
up.
Team.
Yeah, half the team. Yeah.
In terms of going forward, I mean, we've got to presume that they are going to bring players in. Of course, it'll depend on the particular players. We actually think they'll stay up at Betfred. They're 11-10 to go down. Their odds against are 4-6 to stay up. So we've had plenty of money for them, of course, ever since the money came into the club. What's your hunch?
I think they're going to just have to work. They're going to be there and thereabouts. I just don't think to get a consistent run together at this moment in time, if I'm talking today, then it's very, very difficult. What's going to happen from the first week in February, we don't know at this moment in time. So maybe Betfred might be right in what they're saying, what they're going to be doing. But at the moment in time, you have to say it can't happen because they're not putting anything together. They're not scoring enough goals. And let's be perfectly honest, defensively they are atrocious. The centre halves are just not good enough. Not good enough at all, the centre halves.
Okay, let's move on to a side closer to home for you, Manchester United. Of course, it looks like in contrast they're not going to be getting any players in January. Perhaps they need to. It's a big game for them, isn't it, against Aston Villa? A big game for the club and for Ralph Rangnick in particular. They're odds on against the Villa side who've lost 3 of the last 4 now. But under Gerrard, knowing that United are vulnerable, we saw that the other day, they'll be right up for that Villa, won't they?
Yeah, I'm surprised you said they're odds on. I'm really surprised you said that, because I don't know, whoever come up and put that up there must have been wearing blindfolds and have earmuffs on, because there's no...
It was Fred.
Was it? Okay. Well, obviously...
You have to sling your hook now.
Yeah. You put me out. I don't think I'll see you again now. I just don't see how they can be odds on, because they have been woeful. I don't, people say, but they've been winning. Manchester United are not about winning. Not just about winning, it's about performances. So it gets people shaking in their boots to say, wow, play Burnley, go and win 3-4-1, but have a performance behind you. Play Wolves, dominate Wolves, win 2-3-0 as expected. People go, wow. But you beat Burnley 3-1. People are going, blimey, Burnley haven't played for a while. Burnley weren't bad, bit ring rusty, but that flattered United. Play Wolves, lost 1-0, could have lost 3-0, and everyone gone, yeah, you deserve it. Can't create.
What's the issue here, Paul? Because a lot of talk about the system, a lot of talk about the new manager, but it's a pattern, isn't it, across different managers?
Yeah. Systems are only about whatever, what's in between it, what's in the system, what's around it. A toolbox is about the tools in the box. And if you're talking about engines, it's about what's surrounding the engine, what's the main functions in an engine. And if they're not working properly, then systems go to pot. And the system, when you use it, is the players. The players are not good enough. And I'll turn around and I've said a few things about how a certain manager treated individual players, which was totally out of order, the way he treated them, and it was publicly, and which I don't agree. In this today's world, you can't manage that way. You can't, because they're not mentally strong anymore, the players of today. So he managed them all wrong, and since that time, it's been proven already that he's got it totally wrong. His way of dealing with players is wrong. But then you see, the thing about it is that he was right in a certain way, because it's been proved that a lot of his players have played under more than one manager, or maybe even two, and some of them even three managers, and yet it's the same issues. So
we're going back to Jose Mourinho's time at the club and the hardline approach that he took with the players.
Yeah.
Now,
and
since Solskjaer came in, it's a different approach.
It's a different approach, but it's still the same actions after from the players, same reaction that he's getting. The present manager's getting the same reactions. Ollie, after this good unbeaten run, which weren't playing great football, it was virtually nicking games sometimes on the skin of their teeth, got the same reaction. Mourinho, similar as well. And we look what happened with the manager before him. All the same. So it's the personnel. But the problem is they're commodities. So how you deal with it, it's got to be step by step. And it's not about the manager at this moment in time. He's got to look at what he's doing to try to get the best out of the ones who don't really want to do it, who are content to walk around Manchester City Centre and just say, I play for Manchester United. Not that I play for Manchester United, I want to win medals. Because when I'm at United, that's what I want to do, because then everyone's going to be talking about me and Manchester United. They're content just to play for the club and think it's all right just to play. And playing for Manchester United is more than that. You have to achieve, or at least be seen as trying, and they're not trying. And when you hear players who want to go on TV and what they come out and say, then it's even more embarrassing.
How do you rid that culture at a club? Because I go back to your side, you had leaders across the pitch, didn't you? Schmeichel, Bruce, Pallister, Robson, Keane.
Oh, we did,
all the way through.
But we had good strength off the pitch as well, because off the pitch is as important as on the pitch. And at the moment, the club are not in a good place with what's happened off the pitch, and it's all built off of that. It's the only way. That's what football's about. You can work on the pitch, but if you haven't got the backing and support from what's above, then the person in charge hasn't really got any strength. He needs strength to know that if he wants to deal with that situation on the pitch, that individual, they're going to back him, and they're going to back him as behind him and say and shout just as loud behind him so they can hear it down there, and they're going to back him with the funds to replace that issue. And that's not happening.
Do you get the feeling that Rangnick coming in and maybe in an advisory role going forward, that will be a pathway to a solution at the club?
I hope so, but at the moment in time, I'm sceptical, because this has happened so many times with previous managers. Mourinho should have been the one, because the story behind Mourinho was everyone kept saying that he's a winner, but it doesn't mean, but it's history. History is history. It's as simple as that. It doesn't just step in and goes. History is no guarantee of anything. You're there to make history, not to talk about it. And so we have to wait and see. This man has got coming now, and he's got, people have talked about him, what he's done as a mentor. You're looking for him for a structure, then you're looking for the next step. But the problem is, how can you build when you look at the what you've got to use, don't really want to give enough or not good enough to step in? Because we saw that against Wolves. You look at Wolves, and I'll say this again, when you're talking about midfields, you're talking about teams that are going to achieve. Wolves are a team that's going to achieve because their midfield, they've got a midfield that can create, that play together. Manchester United have got a midfield that really, in theory, it's a relegation midfield at this moment in time.
That bad?
It's a poor midfield. I think everyone knows it. You don't have to be an ex-pro, a full-time pundit, or any. You just have to be a person who watches football. When you look at teams, watch the way they play. They know what they're doing, how they're going to build up, how they're going to defend, how they shift the ball about. Manchester United have got none of that. None of that at all. There's nothing in there. They've got names, but they haven't got what matters more than anything: heart, passion, and courage.
Okay. I think you should be in the dressing room with a speech like that. Right, Villa are about 4-1 at the weekend. I know you're concerned about that game. Perhaps more importantly is getting in the top 4 this season, though, for Manchester United. And, well, we're finding it hard to split United, Arsenal and Spurs at the moment for that final spot. We think the top 3 will stay as they are. Although West Ham, I know you looked at me there because I know you watch a lot of West Ham, they are perhaps unfairly priced at 5-1. How do you see the top 4 race this season? I
think if you speak to a West Ham fan, they would accept that being 5-1. They would at the moment. Look at their squad, they look at the injuries, their key players are both out, in Zuma and Ogbonna. They know they need a centre forward, they desperately need a centre forward, maybe not as a backup, maybe for Antonio to still learn off of somebody, because he's been very inconsistent of late. But if Sullivan and Gold were to kind of invest in David Moyes, because his signings have been decent so far, give them maybe a guarantee him at least 2 players, important players in key areas, they could compete right to the end. And if they were to do that and fail, West Ham fans would absolutely really have enjoyed their season if it was to be that way.
Who would you make favourites for that 4th spot?
If I'm going to go on current form, I've got to go with Arsenal. Got to go with Arsenal. Manchester United, if you want to put a name in there and say, oh, they should be in the Champions League, they're a Champions League club, yes. It's got to be United, but if you're going on current form, you've got to go with Arsenal. But you've got to maybe believe a little bit in Tottenham because of Conte. That's the difference. Conte's made a difference to an average team. He's got certain players playing. Moura and Son are the ones who are going to make the difference for Tottenham. They're the 2 key players for Tottenham. Without those 2 playing regularly, Tottenham are not going to achieve maybe what they should do under Conte.
But Arsenal at this stage for you?
At this stage, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the 3 sides I mentioned above them. We were hoping, everybody, that it would be a 3-horse race all the way to the end of the season. It doesn't quite look that way now. Fred paid out on City to win the league on the 29th of December. I'm not sure if you knew that.
No, I didn't know that, no.
They were 6 points ahead going into the Brentford game. Fred paid out on them winning the league. Now the gap is 10 points. Of course, Liverpool can reduce that with the game in hand to 8. It was over for Fred back then. He's even more confident now. What about you?
I never say it's over because anything can happen. But you've got to remember, everyone was kind of questioning City, or did question City, because they haven't got a centre forward. But I always keep saying teams that rely on one constant goal scorer don't win league titles. You don't do it. Goals are shared around teams that win leagues. Without, that's the way it works. And you look at it, and definitely with City, Liverpool share their goals out as such in certain ways. Yes, they've got their key goal scorer or goal scorers when you look at Mane to a certain point, but they do get other players scoring goals. I think if the one team that could maybe make a difference and really push City would be Liverpool, but that would mean Liverpool going on a good run, City the odd little slip, City maybe losing a key player, maybe De Bruyne, maybe going down lame or something like that. But defensively, they're a lot stronger than they were strong last season, really strong with Diaz and Stones. He's putting them in there at the moment. He's moving them about, and normally you look at the centre halves as your rock. At the moment, he's shuffling between his rocks, and they're still being solid. So it's there for old adage, it's there for City to lose.
Okay, not as convinced as Fred, but it looks like it. Yeah, they're in pole position. Yeah. Let's talk about the Championship briefly as well, because it looks like more of a tighter race in the second tier,
yeah.
Paul. We make Fulham the odds-on favourites. Despite no win in 5, they are 4 points behind now. They do have a couple of games in hand, and they are the top scorers due to Mitrovic's form, but are you perhaps surprised at that price?
I don't really buy into the games in hand, to be honest. Especially in the Championship, they play a lot of football already. Last thing you need is extra games with those.
Well, if they haven't won the last 5, no guarantee they'll win those 2.
And I was at when they played Sheffield United, and wow, I mean, the way they play Fulham is, they go backwards for the sake of going backwards, and too much overplaying, very, very reliant on one goal scorer. They look like a side who, if Deke or Diva Reid isn't maybe knocking the odd one in, they haven't got another goal scorer. Defensively, they look a bit shy to me, not physically strong enough. When it's going right for them, it's going right. They have to control the game, maybe get that first goal, so teams have to change the way they're going to play, and it might help them to go forward. But I don't see them being clear favourites. At one point, they were going really well, but you've been around too long as well, Sean, to know that Championship changes far too quickly. The complexion can change. Fulham, there are no guarantees. Fulham at the moment, their form suggests that they're going to be a playoff team again.
OK, well, Bournemouth are currently at the top under Scott Parker, back-to-back wins, and of course Blackburn now unbeaten in 9, winning 7 of those games. We mentioned Brereton Diaz a little earlier, scoring 20 goals already this season, so those two are currently the top 2.
Yeah, I mean, Blackburn at the moment they're doing well, but they haven't got any depth. That's their biggest problem. They haven't really got, that's one of the reasons why they haven't really gone on really and done anything since they've been relegated as such. So at the moment, he'd have to keep everyone fit. They've had some good, Mulberry's has had some good seasons, but they've just always just died away. So there's a chance here for them to maybe go and get something out of it, get some points in the bag, but it could be the fact of their depth of squad that's going to cost them.
OK, let's see if this man agrees with you. It's former Ewood Park favourite Paul Robinson. We caught up with him earlier this week to get his thoughts on Rovers.
Well, I've got Paul Robinson alongside us. Let's talk about one of his former clubs, Blackburn, who've been in great form in the Championship over the halfway stage now, Paul, and they're currently in the automatic promotion spots.
Yeah, that's the surprise package of the season, I think, for a lot of people. I think Tony Mowbray's been given one thing that managers don't often get, and it's time. I mean, I know he's very well liked at the club, and he's getting the best out of the players this season. This is the best opportunity that they've had to get out of this league. Very difficult. You know, I got relegated with Blackburn in the Championship, and they've stayed there ever since. If you don't get back up in the first 2 or 3 years, it's always very, very difficult to get out of. And Blackburn were at the risk of becoming a mid-table Championship team, which they have been the last couple of seasons. But this season now, they've given themselves a real opportunity. They've been playing so well, going forward, scoring goals, and it's fantastic to see a club of that size and stature potentially having the possibility to come back into the Premier League. I think if you'd have offered them before the start of the season a playoff place, I think Tony Mowbray would have taken it. So what they've achieved so far has been fantastic to see.
And a big part of that success has been their striker who left last season just plain old Ben Brereton and has come back Ben Brereton Diaz. And I mean, it's been incredible, over 20 goals already in the league.
The double barrel second name, that's what's done it, isn't it? I think he's been outstanding this year. He's taken all his chances. 20 goals, as you say, in the Championship this season for a club like Blackburn is a fantastic achievement. And I think it's very, very important that they keep him in January. He's been linked to Newcastle along with other clubs. But like I said before, this is the best opportunity that Blackburn have had to get out of this Championship. You don't sell your best player in January if you've got an opportunity to get into the Premier League. What they will get for him in January, the value for the player will still be the same come the end of the season if they don't go up. But the value that they get from going into the Premier League and keeping hold of a player like that far outweighs selling him. So it's vitally important that they keep hold of him in January and they continue to push on in the second half of the season.
Do you think they can fend off the likes of Fulham and West Brom and Bournemouth? They're all big guns in this division circling.
That's the 3 big guns, like you say. I don't think that you'd have put Blackburn in that pack at the beginning of the season, but they've done unbelievably well to be there. Fulham have got games in hand on them, but it's all about points in the bank, and Blackburn are there at the moment. And when you're on a run like that, it's as hard to get out of as a losing run. So a winning run's a very good thing to be on, and momentum is a good thing to have. And I think they've got that. I think they've got the real opportunity to challenge the top 2, but I'd certainly take a playoff place now if you offered me it.
Yeah, I'm sure he would, Paul Robinson there. Pretty confident that Blackburn Rovers, his former club, can go on and get promotion, and he agreed with you. Points in the bag, that's what it's all about in the Championship.
It is, yeah, without a doubt.
So, who's going to go at them? We're at the halfway stage. Who do you fancy for those automatic positions?
I'm going to say Bournemouth, because they've got a few, and the way they play as well. A little bit controversial sometimes the way they play. I'm not a fan of it, but they've got Scott Parker there as well, and they're saying that Bournemouth look like it. They should have done it last season, but Brentford were better than Brentford come through, and the right team come through in that way. I'm going to look at, this is really difficult, by the way. I'm going to say Bournemouth, and I'm going to throw in QPR.
Really?
I'm going to look at Queen's Park Rangers, yeah.
Okay. Ex-loyalties in there, Paul, or?
No, I think a little bit of just the way they've been playing. They've got a physical side to them, a physical presence, but they've got very good footballers Ilias Chair, Willock. They've got some very good creative players as well, but they've got a good mix. I think they've got a better mix than what Fulham have. Fulham can't match them physically. But if I talk about teams that I think are going to be in the playoffs, I'm looking at teams, because teams come from nowhere, by the way. So Blackburn have got to be concerned about Sheffield United and Middlesbrough. Chris Wilder, present team Middlesbrough, are having their best run in the Championship for a long, long time, and they're winning games, playing reasonably well, and the fans are really getting a little bit confident about them. Sheffield United, I saw them play. I look at the players they've got. The players they've got on the park, they've got a back three of Basham, Egan, and they've got Robinson as well, who was at QPR Forest and now Sheffield United, who come in when O'Connell got injured. I don't know how far away O'Connell is, but he was in there. They've got Bogle from Derby. They've got Ender Stevens, Premier League experience. Got promotion on quite a few occasions with Sheffield United as well. They've got a lad called Ndai up front. Lovely footballer, left foot, floats across with the ball. Billy Sharp, so experienced. On the bench, they can bring off Sanderberg, really good midfield player who's just coming back from a long-term injury. Oliver Burke. They've got so many players in the tank as well. They're going to take points off of other teams. So this is going to be one really good contested championship this season. West Bromwich Albion, not a good football team, not a good team to watch, but they make games look ugly. They bring teams down to a level where they can get things from them as well. They're never going to score a lot of goals. The biggest problem for other teams, they don't hardly concede goals.
Okay, but at this stage, maybe QPR the best bet.
For me, yeah, QPR. I like the way they're going. They're in between. They're black or white. They're not going to draw a lot of games, but I think they're going to go and win a lot of games.
Okay, well, that's still to come in May, of course. Let's go back to this weekend, one of the best in the calendar, FA Cup third round weekend. We're looking for those shocks, and earlier you picked out 3, so let's recap those. First of all, Hull versus Everton.
I'm gonna go a little bit outside. I'm gonna say Hull.
Okay.
Hull Everton's current form and how low the club is. I would say that Hull are going to win that game.
And I know you're high on Arsenal for a top 4 finish, but perhaps with different personnel at the weekend to struggle.
It's going to be Forest to run them hard, but Arsenal to scrape by.
Okay, Arsenal just to get by. And Newcastle United, Cambridge United, this would be fascinating if the League One side could do something at St James's Park.
It would be, but I just think the occasion might be too big for Cambridge in the end, really. But I just think that it's going to be a bit of a fright for Newcastle. Just one of these games they don't need at the time, really. They're trying now. This is the moment everyone's looking at them because they're waiting to see they're going to spend. It's like waiting they go. It's like going with the lad with more money than anybody else, following him from school, and he's got all this money in his pocket, and he's going to buy a big bag of sweets, and you're waiting for him to buy them. And that's what everyone's waiting in the moment with Newcastle, what they're going to do. And everything is not about Newcastle playing, it's about what they're going to spend. So everything's off of that at the moment in time. Cambridge to run them hard, but Newcastle will win.
Maybe not giant killings this weekend, but some frights, some scares, as you mentioned.
That's what I think it's becoming that way now. We're losing that edge now because the replays are slowly being siphoned away from these teams.
Okay. Pleasure as always, Paul.
Thank you.
Love having you in, especially at the FA Cup third round weekend. As I say, it's still one of my favourite weekends of the calendar. And hopefully, despite what Paul thinks, we will get a giant killing or 2 this weekend. Good luck with your bets, and we'll see you soon.
The game is on. The match with 22